Hi there, my name is Camille Herrera.
And I am Daisy Leal, and we are both students at California State, Monterey Bay.
Come join us as we talk about spearheads of the ecofeminist movement and what benefits come from the intersectionality of feminism and environmentalism.
To start, we need to have a clear explanation of what feminism and environmentalism are individually. According to the Eastern Kentucky University, feminism is an interdisciplinary approach to issues of equality and equity based on gender, gender expression, gender identity, sex, and sexuality as understood through social theories and political activism.
While some argue that ideas of feminism could be traced back to Sappho of ancient Greece, many modern day activists credit Molly Wollstonecraft with the first feminist literature titled A Vindication of the Rights of Women, which was published in 1792.
In this classic piece of feminist literature, Wollstonecraft advocates for rights for women in terms of education and social equity.
Feminism can be applied in many different contexts. For the sake of this podcast, we will be focusing on the ways in which expressing the power within women has helped aid in the progress of environmentalism. As per an article by Anna R. Davies, environmentalism is used as a general term to refer to concern for the environment and particularly actions or advocacy to limit negative human impacts on the environment.
Together, these two advocacy topics create ecofeminism.
As we continue, we will review what ecofeminism is, how it started, and who keeps it alive today.
The term ecofeminism was first coined in 1974 by French feminist François Daubon. Daubon linked the ways in which women, people of lower classes, and people of color were disenfranchised to the destruction of the environment and safe and healthy places for those disenfranchised individuals to live in and occupy. Throughout time, many other women have followed in Daubon's work.
These women include Susan Griffin, Greta Gard, Wangari Maathai, Vandana Shiva, and Yaneli Martinez, who we had the honor of interviewing and is a feature on this podcast. Each of these women have their own niche in which they apply ecofeminism in their own way.
Susan Griffin studies the issues that contribute to climate change and the oppression of women. In an interview with Barbara Tannenbaum for UC Berkeley, Susan Griffin highlights one main perpetrator of climate degradation: corporation. She parallels how Eve is blamed for humanity's problems and the way that women are continuously used as scapegoats. This is important to understand because of the point that is being made, which is that women are not at fault for the world's problems. Women are easy targets for those in power, so the rising ecofeminist movement is important because that identifies what the real fight should be and who is really to blame.
Another scholar that really focuses on the empowering of women through teaching them how to access and display their agency is Wangari Maathai. Maathai is a Kenyan scholar who founded the Greenbelt movement in 1997. This organization realized that in order to help improve the women's lives, the environment needed to be improved on as well, and vice versa. Maathai and the Greenbelt movement did this by not only working with local communities to donate and plant trees, but also to teach the local residents how to wield their political power. Through doing this, the women of these rural Kenyan villages were able to unseat the political powers that were purposefully prioritizing their own profits over the quality of life of the Kenyan people. And they learned how to elect politicians that better suited their interests in matters such as how their farmland was used and by who.
Greta Gard is another powerful voice in the space of ecofeminism. Gard began her journey with activism by writing and educating. Her first book, Ecofeminism: Women, Animals, and Nature, describes the connections between forces such as race, gender, class, and sexuality that oppress women as well as nature. Gard was also one of the co-founders of the Minnesota Green Party and connected ecofeminism to politics in her following book, Ecological Politics, Ecofeminists, and the Greens. Gard provides a call to action in her book, stating that only when communities come together and make their interests known will society change. She states that both organizations have similar goals, making it important for them to work side by side or at least be open to communication. She also recognizes that politics absolutely have a role to play in the issues that impact women and nature.
A fourth inspiration to the ecofeminist movement is the one and only Vandana Shiva. Shiva is an environmental ecofeminist and food sovereignty advocate. She founded Navdanya, which is an organization that fights for biodiversity conservation and farmers' rights. The name Navdanya translates to 9 seeds, which symbolizes the ultimate gift. It is a woman centric organization that ensures a spot for women in the farmers of the world. The organization recognizes the intrinsic connection between keeping agriculture from becoming colonized and how that benefits the efforts for women's rights. Making the interconnectivity between the two movements clear helps spread awareness and support.
And last but certainly not least, we are pleased to introduce Yaneli Martinez. We interviewed her on November 10th, 2023, which fell on Labor Day. Her dedication to speaking to us on her day off really goes to show her commitment to spreading her message and making a difference.
So my name is Yaneli Martinez, and I am the community organizer for Safe Ag, Safe Schools, the Monterey Bay region. So I work with a lot of folks in Monterey, but also Santa Cruz County.
Her work in Safe Ag, Safe Schools activism began as an extension of being a mother. A large portion of her time is spent fighting for pesticide regulation in agriculture.
I'm a mother of four, and knowing that my son had an asthma attack due to pesticides in the school that he was at because of the proximity to the fields. Literally, the school is just surrounded by ag land. So for me, not being able to be notified ahead of time of what was happening, having to see my son in the ER, really kind of pushed me over the edge of if I'm able to defend myself and I'm very vocal, well, what about the rest of my community?
According to a paper published by the Asthma Society of Canada, pesticide exposure has been linked to a number of chronic health problems, especially including cancer, birth defects, the endocrine disruption, asthma, neurological disorders, and immune systems.
Yaneli saw this issue and she began to start thinking how others might be affected and how she could make a difference.
What about the rest of my neighbors, nuestros campesinos? How are they going to be able to advocate and get this information that is so crucial and needed? And I think that really was that pivotal moment when I said, I'm going to start getting involved. My son started getting involved. It's like a whole family affair.
She credits her role as a mother as part of why she fights this fight so hard.
I really do believe it is the mother instinct, the woman instinct in all of us that as women we want to protect each other, we want to protect anybody. It doesn't regardless if it's your son or your daughter or just a neighbor or just friends in general. Like our main thing is always wanting to protect or wanting to do something good for others.
She also recognizes the role that feminism has to play in terms of political advocacy.
I think that with women in general, it's a little bit different because your emotions come into play. And yeah, that's a big taboo that they put on us. Like women are too emotional. But why is that a bad thing, right? Why is it bad? It's a way of us that nature made us where we could connect. We could feel the emotion of a farm worker when they're telling you their story of how they were poisoned, or when you're at a meeting and you get a politician telling you, no, there's no way that I'm going to protect you, giving you all this BS. Like our feelings or emotions come into play where you get upset, you want to just really call them out. So I feel like but also as a woman too, what I've noticed in the organizing movement with our members is that when things get really heated, the women in the room could get heated as well, but they're always the ones that kind of calm the waters. Like, okay, yes, we're upset, yes, we're mad, yes, we're sad, but let's think about how can we strategize and make sure that next time around this person doesn't get elected, or how can we make sure that we really call out this chemical company or this grower.
Not only does Yaneli recognize this power that she believes being a woman has helped foster, but she wants this power for other women, in her life and in her position. She sees the importance and the perspective that being a woman brings to the table when it comes to pesticide reform.
We're supposed to lift each other up, because if you're succeeding and you're opening that pathway for me or for others, then that is excellent. That is what we want to do, right? Because we have to work harder than men. And then also in this realm of organizing, I feel like organizing is a field that is led by men. It's really hard to step in a space where men that have all this history and all this work of just organizing, and you come into the space, you really have to be a strong woman to come into the space and kind of set that tone that this is who I am, this is what I'm capable of bringing to the table.
Yaneli's focus on pesticide regulation is what drives her activism.
So I get passion, but that's pretty much my work. Having people understand that the pesticide reform movement, it's more than just eliminating pesticides. It's really calling out the problem, and the problem is politicians, the problem is big ag companies, the problem is these big chemical companies, and the problem is also with legislation up at the state that, everybody wants from our people, todos quieren el voto, but when it's time to protect them, they're nowhere to be found.
In her activism, she shares how while both men and women within her organization are a great support system for one another, that isn't always the case when traveling and speaking to other organizations and groups.
Itself, like when we have to meet with big ag, or there's a hearing, or the ag commissioners, all of them have been men, is they have this sense of like power and like, to belittle you, like, oh, that was a dumb question. They technically don't say it, but they give you that response of like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, thank you for bringing that forward, but it's never going to happen kind of response. So you just kind of have to remind them again and be firm and be a little bit loud that this is who I am. And even when you shake hands, like that grip, I love to be able to do the handshaking a little bit tighter so they know I mean business.
Despite any pushback she receives, Yaneli continues to be a stark advocate for her beliefs. When asked what she considered to be her biggest accomplishment, she immediately spoke on her work with the youth of Greenfield and Watsonville, even deferring credit from herself and telling us how proud she was of their interest in activism.
The Watsonville group is majority women. Our youth group in Greenfield, it's a little bit more dominated by the boys, the males. But the young lady here in Greenfield, Alexia, she's amazing. She's like, no, she controls the men. Like, this is what we're gonna do. She's a powerful speaker. I love it. But I also have to remind them equally that, they're equal. They're supposed to support one another, right? And more than anything, they're supposed to support themselves as a youth and understand that their power is their voice, and if they don't use it, they're not going to be able to make change. But not only that, they're not going to be able to create change not just within their household but their community.
Second to her pride in the youth comes her pride in her community and their ability to pass AB 652. AB 652 has now been signed into law and requires that the Department of Pesticide Regulation convenes an Environmental Justice Advisory Committee by July 1st, 2025. This was a monumental accomplishment that many thought wouldn't become a reality. Yaneli, however, continues to give the credit to the youth she works with.
But this victory literally was theirs because they were helping me spread the word through social media, especially Instagram, tagging politicians, tagging Governor Newsom, letting me take pictures of them out in the fields, holding the sign, supporting AB 652. Not only that, meeting with politicians over the summer when they're supposed to be cool and hanging out with their friends. A lot of them were working. They went to Sacramento with me. They met with legislative aides, which is like very nerve wracking for them. But I love the way how they owned that space, and they were like, "Hey, this is my name, and this is why you should support the bill." Then in the later on in the end of the summer during July, they also met with supervisors. So Supervisor Askew and Supervisor Adams, and so that was also like a big push because they were able to help support and say like, hey, I want to sign on as a politician supporting this bill. So their work was tremendously important and needed, and I think without them, we wouldn't have been able to be so successful, regardless of those naysayers.
Her role as Women in Power involved in environmental activism has helped her foster an amazing community of like-minded people to fight for a common cause. Camille and I saw her dedication to empowering and connecting women in these spaces as she invited us to an end-of-year celebration for Safe Ag, Safe Schools.
We celebrate all our members at the end of the year and our accomplishments because we've worked our butts off. And so it's always good to just kind of see everything that we did and just come together, all the different groups. So it's going to be exciting. I want you guys in that space.
During this event, we were able to celebrate the accomplishments of Safe Ag, Safe Schools, and meet Yaneli in person. Her dedication to supporting every single member of her community, no matter who they were, was abundantly clear, as she recognized every single person in the room, at one point or another. She is a powerful woman fighting for environmental rights, and is definitely an inspirational figure who we were honored to meet with.
So I think my one take would be letting you, young person, young lady, young woman, strong woman, understand is that when we really want to empower each other and we really want to talk about feminism, we really want to make sure that we break these barriers that were created by others that didn't want us to succeed. Because it's not us, hating on each other, bringing out the cattiness and the divisiveness and all this thing that comes with it. Is other people, even men, even people in power that just want us to fight with each other because we're fighting with each other and they're succeeding. But if we start lifting each other up and understanding that as much as I need to succeed, I need to be able to lift others and succeed with me, because that's how we build a movement.
We want to give a special thank you to Yaneli Martinez for not only her work with this podcast, but her work as a leading woman in the fight for pesticide reform. She is an example of how strong and important women can be in the fight for a safer environment.